said, my name is Nick Anisich. I'm the Farm to School Program Manager at CDFA. This is the 2022 California Farm to School Incubator Grant Program informational webinar. We've been doing weekly webinars throughout the duration of the Farm to School grant, the application period from May 9th all the way through to whatever today is, June 23rd. We are going to do another webinar next week, and then we're adding in an additional webinar on the due date of the grant for any last minute questions for people. So please be on the lookout for that information. We'll update our website with all of that for you too. The goal of these webinars is to give an overview of the grant and then to get to those questions and answers. So we're excited for that today. First things first, CDFA has a culture of support and collaboration in our Farm to School program. As we were developing the application, it may not feel like this for all of you filling it out, but we were asking ourselves, how can we simplify this? How can we make it as easy as possible to apply? How can we help people apply? How can we celebrate and validate the work that people are doing while also having this grant that creates more work for people and asks them to expand their work and collaborate even more? So it's an interesting dynamic on that one. And then lastly, we're asking ourselves, how can we create lasting impact? Our grant funds are on a one-time basis from the state of California. So we need to make sure that anything that we're investing in can sustain beyond the duration of the grant. We also have a set of guiding practices that we follow in CDFA Office of Farm to Fork. We offer support and technical assistance. That's what these webinars are. We have office hours and peer-to-peer learning. That's for our grantees and for our Farm to School Network partners so that we can connect people across the state. Have you learn from each other? Have people who are experiencing similar issues? Oftentimes we can connect you to someone who solved that problem already in another part of the state. So we also offer that cross-pollination support. So whether it's for the grant or just for your work in general, wanting to expand it with schools, we hope to work on this together. We love hearing your questions. We love refining the grant and making it better and easier. So please, please, please continue to reach out. And today, feel comfortable asking your questions. We do want to hear them and give you clear guidance. All right, next slide. The purpose and priorities, this goes across all 4 of our Farm to School grant tracks. CDFA, the CDFA 2022 California Farm to School Incubator Grant Program will award competitive grants to support projects that cultivate equity, nurture students, build climate resilience, and create scalable and sustainable change. The funding priorities, like I said, go across all 4 grant tracks. We want to engage students from underserved communities, serve schools located among priority populations that are especially vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. We want to fund projects that include small to mid-sized food producers, veteran food producers, socially disadvantaged food producers, and/or limited resource farm households in California. And we want to fund projects that include California food producers who utilize climate-smart ag practices, climate-smart ag production systems like certified organic or transitioning to certified organic, or other regenerative agriculture strategies that increase resilience to climate change, improve the health of communities and soil, protect water and air quality, increase biodiversity, and help store carbon in the soil. So you're going to see all of these funding priorities reflected in the scorecards for each grant track. So we really wanted to highlight them for you here. All right, next slide. There are 4 funding tracks, like I've mentioned: the K-12 Procurement and Education Grant, the Farm to School Partnerships Grant, the Early Care and Education Grant, and the Producer Grant. Yes, you can apply to multiple tracks, and yes, you can apply if you have an existing grant with CDFA. And Brody, I see your question in the chat. Yes, we can share them with you right now. We'll provide a link in the chat. They're also on our grant website, so you can find them there too. Okay, next slide, please. Here's what to expect in this webinar. Like I said, a brief overview of each funding track, the program timeline, and then Q&A for everyone here on the call. Like I said, we're going to stay on as long as possible, as long as it takes to answer everyone's calls or questions. If you need to jump off for any reason, we're going to record this and post it online on YouTube and link to it on our website so you can go back and watch the recording, or you can email questions to us and we'll have more information on that as we go. All right, next slide, please. Here's track one. So the first of our 4 grant tracks. We offered this grant track in last year's funding, in last year's program. We're offering it again this year. It's the K-12 Procurement and Education Grant. Track one will fund individual public school districts, county offices of education, and directly funded charter schools in California to establish new or expand existing farm-to-school programs. Each of these applications needs to do both of these things. It needs to coordinate the school nutrition services program with educational opportunities for students in cafeterias, classrooms, and/or outdoor learning spaces. And it needs to procure California grown or produced, whole or minimally processed foods for incorporation into school meals, especially foods that are culturally relevant, climate smart, and from small to mid-sized food producers, veteran food producers, socially disadvantaged food producers, and/or limited resource farm households in California. So each application in track one needs to do both of those things. It needs to have education, it needs to have procurement, and then if desired, you can employ farm-to-school staff and/or offer farm-to-school professional development for staff in track one. There's been some questions on the funding formula, so we have it in here as well. There's a formula for this application. It's $10 per student enrolled in school year 1920. So you do that formula first. That's where you start. If you can apply for up to $150,000 if your formula is less than that. So if you have, if your formula comes out to $3,000, you can apply for up to $150K, depending on what you have capacity to handle. If you do the funding formula and it's over $1 million, then we pull you back down to earth and only offer a $1 million award for those really large school districts. The purpose of that funding formula is to try to scale awards for the big districts and the small districts in California, since we have such a diverse landscape. All right, next slide, please. Here is the scorecard for track one. I always say that this will start to look familiar for you if you follow each track in this presentation today. You can see that the highest scoring category is community need. And community need, that section includes points for engaging students from underserved communities, serving schools located among priority populations. It also includes school district data on who you're serving. And then it has a more open-ended question too, where you get to make the case for your community and talk about what your school community is experiencing. So there's quantitative data in there, and then there's also a qualitative question where you get to explain and tell the story of your community, since we all know that numbers don't always tell the whole story. So community need is the highest scoring category. Second is project description, where you will talk about how your project coordinates education and includes California food procurement. And then there's 20 points for the healthy, equitable, resilient food system section. And that includes points for if your project will include small to mid-sized California producers, veteran producers, socially disadvantaged producers, and/or limited resource farm households. And if your project includes producers who utilize climate smart ag practices or production systems. So you can check all of that out in the scorecard. The scorecards are also posted on our website, where you can look at each question and how it will be scored. So we've been saying the answer key is out there for you. It's on our grant website, so you can find it there for full details as you review each question. All right, next slide. This is track two, the Farm to School Partnerships Grant. Track two will fund regional and statewide farm to school partnerships in California to establish new or expand existing farm to school initiatives that implement farm to school procurement and/or education strategies as part of a larger regional or statewide food system development plan. So if your county or your city or your region has a food system plan or a sustainability plan that includes food, or you're part of this kind of like regional collaborative around food, and there's farm to school in there, you can apply to implement that. Another option is to apply to increase collaboration and coordination regionally or statewide between California food producers and school nutrition services departments to increase procurement of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods for incorporation into school meals, especially these foods that are culturally relevant, climate smart, and from those priority groups of producers. So that's like if you are a food hub or if you are a nonprofit that connects all of these partners together, then this is the track for you. The other option is to apply to provide farm to school procurement and or education technical assistance or capacity building support regionally or statewide to more than one farm to school implementing organization. So that's like if you have a network, if you're a large statewide organization that partners with a bunch of people everywhere to advance farm to school, then here you go, track 2 is for you. This is the partnerships track. The award amounts vary $100,000 to $500,000. You tell us how much you need. There you go. Okay, next slide, please. You can see the scorecard here in track 2. It's very similar to the one in track 1. Again, community need is the highest scoring category, project description, and then healthy, equitable, resilient food system. So all of those things are in there from our priorities list. They're evident here in the scorecards. And again, the scorecards are on the website, so you can check them out there. Okay, next slide, please. Track 3 is our Farm to ECE grant for early care and education. Track 3 will fund child care centers in California and Farm to ECE support organizations to establish new or expand existing Farm to ECE programs that do all of the following. They coordinate food and garden-based hands-on learning and play opportunities for young children, and if desired, for their families. That connect that with procurement of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods for incorporation into meals, snacks, taste tests, and or food boxes for young children, especially foods that are culturally relevant, climate smart, and from those prioritized producer groups. And offer Farm to ECE technical assistance and or peer learning spaces to ECE staff, teachers, or families. So every Farm to ECE application in track 3 will have to have an education component, a procurement component, and a technical assistance or peer learning component. If they want to in their applications, these applicants can also put in farm to school staff. That's totally allowed, and we know it takes real human beings to do things. So hire one. Okay, and CDFA encourages track 3 projects to incorporate parent family engagement and to build connections with K-12 and the CACFP programs. So those connections are there. Track 3, the award amounts is $50,000 to $200,000. And again, you tell us how much you need in track 3. It's not based on a funding formula. You get to decide based on the needs of your project and your budget. Okay, next slide. Here is the scorecard. Again, it should look very familiar to you, with community need being first highest category, then project description, then healthy, equitable, resilient food system. And I'm going to keep saying it, but as you're filling out your application, please look at the review criteria for your track. It has every single question and how it will be scored. So as you're going through, you can know, oh, am I answering this completely? Yes or no? Am I providing the information that will give me the highest score possible? Yes or no? You can do a self-assessment on that. And when we get into the Q&A, we can also, I think it would be helpful for us, our CDFA team, we can put it in the chat, the links to each of the tracks and the question and review criteria. Okay, next slide, please. All right, track 4, this is our last grant track. And like I said, I'm going more quickly through these today. If you want a full detailed presentation, you can go to the first webinar recording on our website. The Farm to School Producer Grant will fund California food producers to increase production, processing, and or distribution of whole or minimally processed foods for the school food market. Track 4 will also fund California food producers to provide hands-on educational opportunities for youth that complement their food sales or donations to schools. To be eligible, a producer must show evidence of an established relationship with at least one school nutrition services department. So this is for all the farmers on the call, all the producers on the call. You can apply in track 4. The award amounts in this one are $5,000 to $150,000. And again, you tell us what you need. Okay, next slide. Here is the scorecard. This one for the producer grant is a little bit different. The first scoring category is 5 points, and that's to explain your relationships with school nutrition services departments. It's required that you have a relationship already with the school nutrition department and that they provide a letter of intent to work with you and collaborate with you. The reason why we do that is because we need to make sure that these funds will be sustainably used and are going to be successful. And if you don't know that school nutrition department yet, it can be really hard to build a farm to school relationship without that foundational knowledge of each other in place. If you're a producer and you're on this call today, or you're watching the webinar and you don't have a relationship yet with the School Nutrition Services Department, we can help you do that. You don't have to apply for funding. You can just ask us for help, and we're happy to make introductions for you. So that's 5 points, relationships with School Nutrition Services Department. There's 2 points for your description of food production history and farm to school vision, 15 points for your project description, and then 25 points for healthy, equitable, resilient food system. So that asks questions in alignment with our program priorities. Are you engaging students from underserved communities? Are you serving schools located among priority populations? Are you a small to mid-sized food producer? Are you a veteran food producer, socially disadvantaged food producer, or limited resource farm household? And are you a producer who utilizes climate smart agricultural practices or production systems? Then lastly, 8 points for project viability, to explain how this project is sustained beyond the duration of the grant, and what your budget is. Okay, next slide. All right, so here's our timeline. May 9th, the application period opened in an online application portal called WiseHive. If you're having trouble in WiseHive, please email us or watch the video that's posted online. And if our team is able to put the link in the chat to the WiseHive support thing. Amy was so great on our CDFA Farm to School team, shout out Amy, to record a screen share of how to navigate WiseHive and get to your application. So if you need help with that, or you're having any issues, please reach out. We've been doing these weekly and there's the tutorial in the chat. We've also been doing these weekly webinars. July 6th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, applications are due. From July to August, we will review all of the applications. Then in September, we will notify all the applicants on whether they've received a grant or not. From September through December, we will be working with you to fill out our grant packet and establish a grant agreement. An estimated start date for these projects is December 1st, 2022. And then the end date is November 30th, 2024. And you get to choose your timeline there in your application for your project. So up to you on that piece. All right, next slide. Here's how we can help and how we can't help during the application period. We said we have this culture of support and collaboration. We want to do that, but we can't also give people who know my phone number a competitive advantage. So here's how we can help. We can answer informational questions about the grant via email and on these webinars. We can introduce producers and schools or school support organizations. So like I said, if you're a producer and you need introductions, we're happy to do that. And we can provide technical assistance support for the online application portal in WiseHive. We're happy to do all that. Here's what we can't do. We can't provide specific feedback on grant project ideas. So you can't be like, how's this sound? And then read us your application and get notes. We also can't assist with writing the grant application, so we can't write it for you. Okay, next slide. And then Brody, this one's for you. What's the best email to reach out? Oh my gosh, and look, we have our own participants answering. So yes, Carrie, thank you. So if you want to email your question to us, you can email cafarmtoschool@cdfa.ca.gov. That email goes to all of us on the Farm to School team. So that way, you know you're going to get somebody. So you can email them in that way. You can always search for your questions on our website, and our Q&A documents on there as well. And then today, we're going to go through all the questions on the call. If you want to ask your question out loud, you can go to the reactions feature in Zoom and then go to raise hand, and we'll just answer the questions from the raised hands. And then we're also going to go through the chat. So I know there's 2 questions in the chat right now, and then I'll go through all of the hands. So Anna, I'll do your second. The first one in there was from Suzanne a little bit earlier. Is this for schools only or community farms partnering with schools? Track 1, when you ask that question, the K-12 procurement and education grant is for schools only. They can use part of their budget to contract with a community farm that's partnering with the school, and they can use grant funds to procure from a community farm that's partnering with the school, but the community farm themselves cannot apply in track 1. Okay, and then Anna, I have your question here, and then I'm going to the hands. Question I received from a school district. Will a proposal be penalized for including only 2 measurable project objectives in their project work plan, which is the minimum required? Will they be scored higher for including more than 2 measurable project objectives? This is a great question, and I'm going to confirm it with Amy on our team. So as long as you're meeting those minimum requirements, I believe it has the ability to maximize the score in that section. Is that right, Amy?
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Nick. And hi, Anna. That is correct. So the project work plan section in track 1 is worth up to 5 points. And the minimum is to include 2 project objectives, one related to coordinating the school nutrition services program with educational opportunities, and the other related to procurement of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods. And as long as the applicant has those 2 minimum required project objectives and meets the kind of review criteria outlined in the track 1 review criteria document, then they can receive up to 5 points for that project work plan section. And they wouldn't be eligible for a higher score if they do more than 2 objectives.
There you go. Thank you, Amy. Okay, and then for the questions in the chat, I see there's like 8 or 9 or something like that. So Alma is the next one. I'm going to do all of the hands that are raised first, since these were there first, and then I'll go through the chat. Okay, Claudia, shout out the California Wheat Commission. Hi. What's your question today?
Hi, Nick. Hi, Amy. Thank you. I have, and I'm going to try to keep them brief.
Yeah.
I have a question, 2 questions related to the infrastructure and contractual. And I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So if we are adding a, expansion in our building, and there's going to be breaking a wall, adding an ADA bathroom, and light fixtures, for example, that need to be added, a new HVAC. Is that all of that is still under contractual or infrastructure? So I'm still confused on that.
That's a great question. Amy, what do you think? Is there a preference?
So I think if it's something you're procuring through a contractor, then it probably fits best under contractual costs. And then under contractual costs, you would name the contractor if known, and then you would list the different items that you're going to be procuring from them, or that they're going to be providing. And in the reasoning, you kind of explain how the contractor is going to be helping to implement the project activities and meet the project objectives. So that would probably be my recommendation if you're going through a contractor.
Yeah, you don't have to put down 8 light bulbs, 10 tiles. Right, keep it big and broad, say contractual, they're going to be doing this big project. Here are the elements of it. You don't have to, itemize each item.
Well, that actually I already have done, because that's what I thought, but I can keep it short. Anyway, okay. If you want me to keep it short, I will. Good. One quick related to that, there is a section 319 on grant administration that says that we need at least 3 bids. Does that apply to these, or that applies if there's a process where we do get the grant?
Good question. Amy, do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, that's a great question, Claudia. I'm going to pull up that section because I know what you're talking about. Yes, so for contracting, the CDFA grant admin regs require recipients to first follow your own written procurement policy and procedures when looking for a contractor. So that's the main requirement, is if you have your own internal policies and procedures for contracting, then you would just follow that. But in the absence of a written policy and procedures, then you need to follow kind of what number 319 outlines in terms of the at least 3 bids or proposals and kind of the rest of what it says in 319.
So do you want me to put my 3 bids as a budget item, or do you want me to pick one and show you the other bids?
That's a great question. You don't have to put that detail into your budget and application. The regulations are just kind of guidance for telling you, or any applicant or grant recipient, how to go about it. But you can, if you know your contractor already, through your own method or through following number 319, then you can put that proposed contractor in your budget. Or if you haven't yet determined who that contractor is, but you're going to be contracting with someone or with some entity, then you would write in kind of like contractor name to be TBD, but then include all of the types of costs and activities you'd be doing alongside the contractor in your application.
Got it. Thank you. And one last thing here.
Okay.
So if we have multiple schools that have shared their interest in utilizing our program, but they are not going to be part as implementing schools, but we have at least 5 schools more that say, we want to do these and we support you. Can I add those letters as part of my supporting partners or not?
Amy, what do you think?
So this is, you have your school districts that are school implementing organization partners, and then you have additional districts that are going to be part of the project, but in not like as big of a role.
Exactly.
That's a good question that we're trying to actually figure out. It's come up a few times and it's a really good one. We did send out a clarification about track 2, that track 2 applicants must include any farm to school implementing organization that their project will serve in the project partners section of the application. And farm to school implementing org is a public school district, county office of ed, or directly funded charter school. And then track 2 applicants must also include any farm to school implementing organization that their project will serve in question 12 of the track 2 application, which is about organizational data for each farm to school implementing org, because we want to be able to understand who you're serving and the needs of those communities. But then we also understand that sometimes there's going to be a school district that perhaps your project is kind of indirectly supporting, and that you're maybe not as like directly working with them. And that's what we're still trying to figure out. So I'll pass it over to Nick. Nick, if you have something to share about that now, or if we want to get back to it later.
No, I think we can share about it now, where like, is this part of your project application, or is this just to show that like you're working with a lot of schools? Because you're not required to put in additional letters of support outside of your project partners. So if it is not technically a project partner and they're not in the rest of the application and they're just writing in to show how great you are, which is fantastic, like that's not required.
Got it.
So if you wanted to include them to show that they're supporting, but they're not actually part of the project, then it would just be a bonus for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Meredith, I have you next. And you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I have a couple questions. I'll try to be succinct. I'm a volunteer at a middle school garden in LAUSD. So I'm looking at track 1. We have an existing garden that we're trying to renovate. I have no problem connecting our grant to, sustainable climate change, with climate resilience, education. I'm struggling with, I can't get, we're growing food in the garden. I don't know that I can qualify for that other objective of getting my food service. That, am I making sense?
Yeah, sure.
It seems like track 1, you're wanting us to work with outside food vendors to use their produce. We're trying to use our own produce. So does that still fit?
Yeah. So this is a great question. And I would say it's important to kind of rethink it as outside food vendors. LAUSD provides their own meals to students. Okay. And so, you can apply to do a garden to cafeteria project, to connect education and procurement. And we have had some conversations with LAUSD in the Nutrition Services Department about them applying. So if you would like to email us, we can make that connection to you, to your school nutrition services department to coordinate that.
Oh, so do we not qualify for this grant then?
You would have to apply with your school nutrition services department signed on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
My next quick question is, so in signing, my principal is on vacation. I can get my complex project manager to sign, but who else do you require from the school?
The requirement is to have a school nutrition services director or equivalent.
Okay,
So as a decision maker in the school nutrition services department to say, yes, we are going to be handling the procurement piece of this project, and here's what the procurement piece is, and all of that side. Yeah.
okay. And last question, does anybody on this chat have a procedures manual or rules manager? My assistant principal is asking for rules and regulations, and I don't want to have to start from scratch.
This for garden to cafeteria?
Garden to cafeteria, but mainly students in the garden, students and teachers working plots in the garden.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can pull some of those for you for sure. If people want to put some in the chat that are on the call today, if you want to link to it, you can do that and put those in the chat now. And we can also follow up with you, Meredith, because we also run the California Farm to School Network. So we have a bunch of resources and guidebooks and handbooks, and all of those things get published all the time.
Great, thank
So
you.
we'll definitely share them with you. Hopefully they're actually helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Adele, I got you next.
Oh, sorry, Nick. I just wanted,
Oh,
and
yeah.
sorry, Adele. I just wanted to jump
okay.
in really quick with a clarification. Hi, Meredith. I just wanted to add on to what Nick was saying about coordinating with your school nutrition services department. And so for track one, each school district that's eligible is only eligible to submit one application. So if you're an individual school within your district interested in applying, that's wonderful. But yeah, you do need to coordinate with your district to ensure that somebody else in the district isn't submitting their own application, in which case they would kind of be competing against each other. But if you work together, then you can try to ensure that the one application for the district, includes your school site in it.
Okay, that makes sense, but LAUSD is huge. I'm having terrible trouble getting to people. So who would I check with in the district to see if another school is doing this?
That's where the school nutrition services department would be able to come in, since they're required to write those letters of support. And we can connect you to one of the regional directors that we have talked with about this opportunity too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And
Amy,
now over to Adele. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Woman with many questions.
Yeah.
Actually, no, these are my final questions. I've been
Okay.
working very diligently at this. So I know I can't talk about, hey, what do you think? So I'm not going to do that. But first off, letters of support. I too have the director of nutrition, which is Amy Hendricks. The Santa Cruz City School District was on vacation. She is back this week. So I'm trying to, my goal is to put it in this Friday, but I do have her assistant, the nutrition outreach specialist. I also have a principal from a school we did a food box with. And then I do have the director of nutrition services out of the Monterey School District. So I think that suffices, but I will wait for Amy's. And I think that would be enough for the track 2 letters.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yep.
To say, okay,
Mhm.
good there. Question 2, project work plan. So I'm guessing, taking a stab at this for the first time, this is more of kind of with your proposed project or program, what type of activities or projects are you going to have around it? So being from a grower shipper Coke farm and being a track 2 where we want to supply organic produce to the schools, this is more about some kind of on-site, eat and learn, teach and learn, maybe farm visits type of thing, and to the school. Does that sound about right? Project wise.
Familiar with that template than I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, great question, Adele.
Mhm.
So yes, for the project work plan, that's for tracks 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
And the first thing it asks you to do is just to state your overall goal for your project. So that's kind of like your vision. It can be really big and broad. Like, what do you want to happen? It's kind of this
Right.
like yeah, just like kind of philosophical, almost visioning question.
Mhm.
And then you get to the table below that, and the first column is asking you for your objectives.
Mhm.
So that could be like, we want to, increase procurement by whatever amount in these districts from these food producers, whatever your objective is. And
Mhm.
so you put that in that column. And then I think the next column is activities. So yeah, that's when you say like, what will you and your partners actually be doing to achieve that objective? How will you
Right.
be collaborating? What kinds of, things will you be doing? And then to the right of that, you put in your timeline. So,
Mhm.
oh, we estimate this is going to happen in February of 2023, or between, February 2023 through September 2023. So then that's where you put in your timeline. And then the final column on the right, I believe, is who will be doing each of those activities.
Correct.
So there
Yeah.
might be some things that you are doing. There might be some things that the school nutrition departments are doing. There might be things that other project partners are doing. So that's where you would kind of write in like their organization names or their position names, or even their names if you want to include them. Yeah. And then that should all align with your project narrative. That's a few questions before that in the application.
Yeah, it's the project goal, right?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is align it, in this slide deck today, we talk about the goals of track 2 are blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. So as long as you're pulling those things all the way through your narrative, through your work plan, then you should be all good there in alignment.
So that sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, in terms of us being a farm, organic farm, our goal is to educate and also get healthy nutrition out there. That would be kind of the objectives. And then how are we going to, how can we show and tell that? Some like fun farm visits or a farmer coming out to the schools or myself and yada, yada. But okay, I got that. And then the last one, this is the touchy one, it's the budget. So again, without getting into it too much, this, I guess, is probably the question I'm hoping to get guidance on. So as a grower, I could put anything on track, the track 2 application of what we want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to source more organic produce, locally into the schools and funnel better nutrition. So it could be as simple as that. I mean, I could put that on here and the budget could, it could be a deconstructed, I see some of the examples has a tractor or this or that. It's nothing about that. It's about box procurement. It's about harvesting a box of produce. So it could either be as deconstructive as farmer A and what their costs are to put a bulk produce into a box and what it costs to ship it to a school by unit, or B, it can be something which is what I want to do is the food box program. But I guess my question is track 2, are you looking for something unique and different, or is it something where it could be as simple as just funneling bulk produce to the schools? And I guess I ask this is because I really want Coke Farm to participate more with the schools. So I'm just curious does it matter? Do I write one proposal, or can I have a proposal with an option if it wasn't selected? Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is a good question. Amy, do you have a gut feeling coming out of it? Or I feel like we almost need to follow up because it's so detailed. What are you thinking, Amy?
Yeah, we may need to follow up. I think there's a few things that I can address. So one is for the budget. For track 2 and for any of the tracks, grant funds can fund staff. So if you need staff to implement your farm to school project, you can write that into your budget. You can fund materials and supplies, like if you need the physical boxes themselves to put these boxes together and it's related to your farm to school project, then materials and supplies are an allowable cost. One thing that's important to note about track 2, and this didn't come up specifically in your question, but I just wanted to share it, so hopefully it's relevant. But in track 2, funds cannot be used for procurement for school meals. So that is what track 1 is for. So if your school district partners want to use grant funds to purchase produce from local producers and incorporate that into school meals, they would actually need to apply to track 1 themselves. Yes, and apply like for those local procurement funds, as well as, you know, applying to coordinate the school nutrition services program with educational opportunities. But then track 2 can be all about, you know, how do you scale up and enhance the system itself to support school districts to actually do that procurement. But track 2 itself, the funds cannot be used for procurement for school meals.
So, okay, so here, this is my question then. So track 1, we're going to be named by the Santa Cruz School District and Monterey County as a grower shipper to procure from. So that answers your question about procurement. They can procure from Coke Farm. For track 2, I mean, what we're trying to do, and again, I know you can't answer certain questions, but the funding is to be used towards the schools. Our funding is to go to the schools of farm to, you know, farm to fork, farm to school program. So we're not procuring produce because we are the farm, but we could do 2 things. I mean, my vision, as you guys know, is a food box to the students. And I think it would be amazing to do, especially now with this whole recession, whether people want to believe it or not, is going on. It is. That's what I want to do. And so the budget, the worksheet would be a deconstructed food box. It would show the funds that go into every single box to get it to the student. My point, the other point I was trying to make is, you know, I don't know how well people will look at that type of grant. Are they ready for it? The other option is we can deliver produce to the schools, full boxes of bulk produce, and deliver it from our farm. So we're not procuring it because we're the grower shipper, but we would use that, say if it's $500,000 or $400,000, we would use it in bulk produce to the schools. Now, I guess my question is that part of track 2, or does track 2 have to be a unique, something new, which is more of the food box program, and just stick to that and run with it?
Well, I want to just answer one piece of it, and then I think we want to take it offline with you, and we can get into that detail. So the first thing is, like, if you're giving food to the school and the school is using it in meal programs, that's procurement. So
okay, so that'll answer my question. Yeah, because this is strictly a side of that. It's not a school program. It's for a student to take home.
Yeah, and as Amy said, it's like scaling up that system to allow the procurement to work, whether it's to make those school nutrition programs to increase participation by having this educational hands-on opportunity, or all those other things that you mentioned.
Okay, so yeah, that answers it. So it would be exactly what I started writing this for. Yeah, something aside of the other programs. It's an additional layer of a program, like something new. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Great.
Okay, thank you, Adele. Yeah, and we'll still follow up with you on those other details too.
Okay. Now, once we submit these applications, then you're reviewing them, correct?
We do an administrative review in-house. So we make sure that you've checked every box and filled out every form, and you know, that you have the letters of support. And then what we do is
So you would reach out to us if there was something that we needed to address?
Yes.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, next one on the list is Michael. Hi, Michael. I feel like I'm running a radio show. Yes. Great.
And
Michael,
yes,
Doctor. Hey. Yeah.
Live in Morgan Hill. Quick question just on track 2 eligibility. I just want to make sure before I travel down this road, I'm eligible for it. Would the public school district would be the implementing organization? We are working with Lunch Assist. Would they be the support organization?
Yeah.
And then to meaningfully support school systems, could that be like the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club?
It has to be another LEA. So it would have to be another school district or county office of ed or someone else to show that you're not just supporting one school district, but making a collective impact regionally or statewide.
Okay.
Thanks. Hi, Michael. I also wanted to jump in. So as a public school district in California, you're a farm to school implementing organization, you would be eligible to apply to track 2, and you would need to partner with at least one farm to school support organization, like you were saying. in terms of if Lunch Assist is an eligible farm to school support org or not, we recommend that you look at the list of eligible farm to school support orgs on page 13 to 14 of the RFA.
Yep.
Different types of eligible farm to school support orgs are like nonprofits, institutions of higher education, food hubs. There's also certified small businesses in California that are certified through the California Small Business Certification Program. And so if your partner does not meet one of those boxes, then they wouldn't be able to fulfill the criteria of being a farm to school support organization partner. And you would need to like find one of the orgs that do meet one of those criteria. But that organization could still be part of your project as like a partner or a contractor. They just wouldn't be able to like meet the required partnership like criteria if they don't meet a farm to school support org option on there. Does that make sense? Sorry if that got complicated.
No, thank you. No, I'm big vision. I won't even bother to share it here, but I don't think track 2 works the way I think I need it to work. So I'm going to have to rework it.
Okay. And also for that, if you know, you feel like if anyone feels like the tracks could be improved in the future, we would love to hear that. You know, if you want to send us an email anytime about, oh, hey, like, you know, next year, I feel like it could be improved in this way. We love to hear that.
The tracks are great. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our only requirement is if you send us a problem, you also need to send us a solution.
You got it.
That's the only requirement. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Michael. All right. Next on the list I have here is Jess.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, we can hear you. Hi, Jess.
Great. Hi. Thank you for all this information. I have a couple questions, but I'll try to keep it short. I'm both supporting a school, a charter school, as well as a farm, an urban farm that's a business. And so I have questions about track 1 and track 4 because we're going to apply separately.
Yeah.
And so my question was that for track 4, I'm an urban farm and I want to support the charter school's food distribution program, could we like write the grant for track 4 to go to like a free food distribution program that would go to families of the school, or does it have to go through the cafeteria?
Good question. Amy, do you know?
Maybe that's a great question, Jess. Maybe ask your second question and I'll look into your first question as you're asking your second question.
Yeah. Another option was that we could make it into like a very low cost CSA or something for sustainability. The food distribution is already kind of under the boat of the school and it has like student involvement. So that could be like an education piece as well. And then my other question was for track 1, it might not happen this way, but I'm just thinking of all the possibilities. For track 1, the procurement, I guess it's a similar question, like does the procurement from say like a farm have to go through cafeteria, or could it also be for the food distribution, like from an urban farm outside of the school and from an urban farm that's inside the school? Like could the food come from there and does it have to go through the cafeteria, I guess is my question.
Okay, I have a question for you. I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Okay, sure.
Do you know if the charter school is a school food authority? Like, do they run their own meal program, or are they part of like a school district umbrella where the other school district runs it for them?
I believe they run their own, but I'm not positive. Yeah, I guess how would that affect? Yeah.
So for track 1, it's called the school food authority. It means they like they operate the national school lunch program, school breakfast program, and summer and community feeding program. So if a charter school is direct funded, they are typically their own school food authority, and then they run their own project. That gives them the autonomy, right, to do the purchasing from whoever they want to. The other option is that if they're under the umbrella of a larger local school district, then you would have to apply in partnership with that school district.
Okay.
And then they could focus it in on that side. So that would be the difference for track one. And then Amy, have you been able to find the answers to the other one, or we can also follow up too?
Yeah, so also following on to what Nick said about track one, it would be the same for track four. The partner, if the partner entity is a charter school, they would have to be a charter school that's a school food authority that operates the National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program. And if they're not, then same as Nick said, the producer could partner with the school district and then focus the project in beyond that on the school site itself. And then for the question about procuring food for school meals through the cafeteria versus in food distribution for students and families. So there's a requirement in track 4 that the producer applying needs to have a letter of intent from the school nutrition services director at the partner entity. So in this case, it would be at the directly funded charter school site if they're a school food authority. And so the school nutrition services director or equivalent like decision maker and overseer of the school meal program would need to, submit and sign that letter of intent. And in the letter of intent, it would need to say either that there's a good faith intention for the school to purchase or accept the producer's California grown or produced food for school meals. So it does specify for school meals. It does not need to be a commitment to purchase or accept, but it needs to be a good faith intention. Or alternatively, or in addition, the letter of intent can express a good faith effort to collaborate with the producer to implement hands-on educational opportunities for youth that complement the producer's food sales or donations to their organization. So that's the minimum requirement for track 4 in terms of like the food and education pieces. I think beyond that, and Nick, I'll pass this to you to confirm or share your thoughts too. But beyond that, if, like food distribution to students and families through the school is also part of your project because it's going to be contributing to this overall farm to school project and maybe also contributing to education, then that can be part of your project as long as it's like all about meeting the farm to school project objectives. But it couldn't replace the need to have the food in school meals, or it couldn't replace the need to have like those hands-on educational opportunities.
Yeah, that's the weeds. They got to buy it from you for meals.
Okay, so it does
so that's got to be part of it. Yeah, so it has to be part of it. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but there needs to be a component of that procurement. And the reason why it's a requirement is because it's not sustainable to have someone growing and donating food. Like, why do you need a grant to do that, right? So you could just do it. So that's why the grant is here. It's to build that economic connection for sustainability on the producer side. So if you want to have the free food distribution in addition to a procurement element, then that would work. But there has to be that procurement purchasing element as well.
Okay, so somehow the school needs to be purchasing with money the food from the farm, either if it goes in partially to school meals and partially to a food distribution. That's
there has to be a component that goes to school meals.
Okay, gotcha.
And for track 4, we do say that it could be sales or donations for school meals. So it could be that the district is purchasing or accepting donations for school meals. And that's if you're doing the food procurement side of track 4, but there's also an option, like say a producer is already doing that. A producer is already selling or donating their food to a school district or a directly funded charter school for school meals. And now they want to apply for these grant funds to implement hands-on educational opportunities that complement those existing food sales or donations for school meals. They could apply to do that.
Okay, because currently the farm gives donations to that food distribution, and really what the farm wants to do is to just get all the amazing organic, regeneratively grown food directly to communities. That's just the objective. So finding the best, cheapest way possible to get people food. And so
can I pause there? School meals are universally free now too.
Great.
So that's also a great way to access school meals, because kids have to be offered breakfast and lunch for free at no cost. So if you're getting it into the meal programs, it's the same as the donation. It's just on their plates.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. So, sorry, just to, I don't want to take up too much time, but
Yeah.
to confirm what I heard you say, in addition to, anyway, I think I'll follow up because my brain's a little like, I can't come up with a specific question, but I understand that part of it has to go through school meals.
Yeah. Okay. Email it to us too, and you can take time, and then we can give you a really direct written answer too.
Okay, thank you. The other quick question I had was, can we use the funds for internships for track 1 and track 4?
Yeah,
For
for
like
sure.
student internships or
Mhm.
something? Okay.
Yeah, we love those.
And the last question is, I had to figure out like what to use for what, but is it possible for the farm to apply to track 4 and the school to apply to track 1 and list the farm as a contractor for procurement?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. That's all my
Yeah,
questions.
thank you all. Okay, and then just for everyone, thank you. No, and email us too, and we can provide clarity on the other stuff. So
Okay.
I want to flag for everyone that it's 12:59. So if you have to get off the call right now, email us your questions and we will respond to you as quickly as possible. And for anyone who can continue to stay on, we will stay on too. Okay, so Elena, I have you next.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think Jess's questions actually answered my first one because we have a charter school that we're working with, and they had asked that exact thing, if that letter of intent can count for sending food boxes home with schools, but I don't think that ultimately achieves the end goal. If that sounds kind of
It could
online.
be wrong out loud here. We'll send a clarification to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, so that kind of helped me understand that one. My other one was just a clarification for track 4 contractual costs, with the 5th objective of track 4, expanding or establishing new educational opportunities. We'd like to hire a nonprofit as a contractor to perform an activity that would help the schools. So I just wanted to clarify or confirm that that is allowable.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Not experts. Farmers, they want to grow food, right? It's hard to do it all. Hard to be an educator and a field trip coordinator and all of that stuff too. So
yeah,
you can definitely contract that out.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that covers that for me. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Okay, Yang, I have you next. Hold on, I can't hear you. It says you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. No. We're like miming. It's great. I can't hear you. We still can't. Keep your hand up and we'll come back to you. Try it now with the headphones out. I know this exact game you're playing here with the AirPods. Still no. Keep your hand up and and then we'll come back to you, or put it in the chat if that's easier. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Andrea or Andrea or all the other ways you could pronounce it. How do you say it?
I say Andrea, but I respond to all. I've always have, always will. Thank you guys. Lots of great information here. I work at Pajaro Valley Unified School District, and we are implementing Emerald Lagasse Culinary Garden Teaching Kitchen in collaboration with Life Lab. And we have a specialty block grant together, and now we are scaling out school gardens across all of our elementary schools over the next few years. And so we are wondering, under track 1, the capital expenditures for building either the kitchen piece, the garden pieces, is that allowable? And I note that it says, with prior written approval. And what does that look like? How do we launch that conversation so that we have that?
Yeah.
And we'd love to invite you to come visit anytime. It's pretty incredible.
Okay, well, send us some dates. I'm in. I would love to. I've been hearing about the project for a long time. Okay.
Oh,
and
then
good. Amy, I know has a question, has a response to this one.
Okay.
Hi, Andrea. Yeah, that's a great question. We're still looking into it. That question has come up a few times. It's a really great one. So we're still looking into what that kind of approval process looks like. So we'll make sure to follow up on that one and post it in the Q&A on our website once we have that answer. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry we don't have that one ready yet.
Okay. Okay. So
It's
I'll
a very
just keep
state
watching.
agency. Yeah, it's a very state agency thing of like, it's in the guidelines, but we don't know what it means. So we have to figure it out and bring it back to you. But our intent is that that would be an allowable thing to build those things out as part of the project cost. We just don't know what that specific letter is.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, Christina, our last, well, no, we have Yang to go back to. Okay, Christina.
Hi, and I might give you a wrong answer for your question on Andrea.
Oh.
Fund 13 can only fund certain things, and you have to have it approved. If it's over 5,000, you have to have it approved by the CDE. And there's an approved list I just put in your thing. And if it's on the approved list, you don't need prior approval, but anything other than that, you do.
Well, and these funds don't have to go through Fund 13 is the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, yeah, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so my questions is WPUSD's Ag Department got a CDFA grant last year, but I'm going to be applying on track 1. Does that eliminate me, or do I have to like explain that they're just totally separate projects and like not related?
So, you know, like we said earlier, each district can submit one application, right? So is the Ag Department, they're not trying to apply in track 1, are they?
They're not applying again this year, no.
Yeah, so you could just explain in the application how the projects will be complementary or how they're separate. All we're really looking for is that you're not double dipping and billing us twice for the same activities.
No. Okay, great.